going to kick us off. We're really excited just to talk about, the Evening of Excellence, the great awards that comes out of the Evening of Excellence, the things that you all can do when you make those nominations. And we have Chris, our board president, and we have Stephen Hoffman, our past president. I will let you know, do not throw stones or send bad messages to Chris or Stephen, but they have been our judges sometimes in the past with a couple other individuals. I will let you know that you cannot do anything. You can't send roses to Chris or chocolates to Stephen this year because they are not going to be our judges. But so that is why they're on doing this webinar for us, is because actually Stephen has done it multiple years and really knows how to help you all grade, or knows how to move that application on up with the other judges. And so we're just delighted to have you all this morning to hear about this, and excited about the projects that are going to come in and the people that you guys are going to highlight for these awards this year.
This is always the fun part of planning the conference, is getting the nominations and seeing the great work that, maybe we didn't realize or hadn't been in your community in a few months. And it's always great to see those things come through. And then we use them as examples in presentations in future years. And so keep that in mind too. We always love to see this happen.
Yeah. So I'm going to kick it off to Stephen and Chris.
Actually, I'm going to get started, Gayla. I'm going to go through the grant application piece. We're going to kind of do the technical stuff first. Can everybody see the screen, the presentation screen? Okay. Yes. So we're going to kind of go through some of the logistical stuff first, and then we're going to have Stephen and Chris talk about how to write a good application, things that are important from a judge's perspective, storytelling, and all of those good things that they can help you create that winning application. So who can apply? Well, it's anybody within the top 3 tiers in Missouri. So accredited associate or affiliate Main Street programs in good standing with their agreement with Missouri Main Street can submit a nomination. And if you have questions about whether you're in good standing or not, Ben White is our person on the team that keeps track of that. And so if you have some questions about that, that is his email address. And I think most of you know Ben really well and can reach out to him if you have questions. But basically, it's, are you in compliance with your agreement, your annual agreement with us? Those are the things that we're looking for. And then each Main Street organization is limited to a total of 6 nominations that you can submit. 2 of those coming from the organization category, 2 from design, 1 from promotion, and 1 from economic vitality. And we'll go through those categories here in just a minute so you know what those are. Most of them, I'll say we probably changed maybe a quarter of them this year, a little different. We like to change it every few years just to emphasize different areas of Main Street work. And so we'll go through those in just a second. And then the narrative specifics related to your nomination, at least 500 words, but no more than 1,000 words. And I'm going to share in just a minute that we are using a new platform, Submittable, as an electronic platform to do nominations. Some of you may be familiar, a lot of granting organizations use that application. So we've got we're able to limit it to 1,000 words. So the application will help you manage that piece of it. Submit at least 5, but no more than 10 photos. And high quality photos is what we're looking for. And Chris and Stephen are going to talk about pictures in a little bit because they are very important. The old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That can be very helpful in helping convey your application, your nomination. But we also need those photos for the winners because we take those photos and turn it into a video about the project. And so it's important to demonstrate and have those photos. The work has to take place between January 1st of 2023 and December 31st of 2023, unless noted. There is an exception, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And a project can only be nominated in 1 category. So just keep that in mind as you go through. So these are the categories. For the organization category, it's Outstanding Community Empowerment Grant Community. So that's a grant program we offer for startups of new Main Street programs. That's the one that has different dates. So for the Community Empowerment Grant, you have to have been active in that grant program in 2022, 2023, or 2024. So that one has different date requirements. So keep that in mind if you are a CEG or Community Empowerment Grant community and want to apply for that. Best new awareness campaign. So this has to do with informing the public about who you are as an organization and what you do. And then the Spirit of Main Street used to be the Volunteer of the Year and the Public Official. We combined those into one category this year. So anybody that is affiliated with your Main Street program that demonstrates continued support would be the Spirit of Main Street Award. And then Premier Partner, we have had that for a number of years. Who do you work with as Main Street and want to recognize? And then there are those special requirements. Each section has these, and when Stephen and Chris start talking, I'm going to pop a couple things in the chat, so you'll have access to these before we announce everything on Monday. You'll get an email on Monday with the application, the link. We have a checklist that new this year to help you out. And so always pay attention to those special submission requirements. Next is economic vitality category. So outstanding economic impact project. We've had that in the past. Best downtown housing project is also a returner. But the new one is the Main Street Business Recruitment Award. In Main Street and economic vitality is retention and recruitment. And so we decided to make a category for recruitment efforts from a Main Street program. So that's a new category. And then promotion, creative new promotion is a return from previous years. That one is there. And then again, some special submission requirements. This one is talking about certain categories we're going to be looking for, and you need to submit an action plan or a work plan to go along with the nomination. And then for the design category, it's small scale placemaking activity. We've changed the placemaking awards just a little bit for this year. So small scale, there's the definition there, murals, art projects, things like that. And then a comprehensive placemaking effort. So much larger, multiple spaces, could be a streetscape or a large beautification project, a park or a plaza. And so two different iterations of placemaking than what we had in past years. And then best facade rehabilitation is the same as previous years, and best historic preservation project. We always want to see those historic preservation project nominees and the impact that they're having in your community. And again, always pay attention to those special requirement categories in each of those sections, because they're all just a little different. And then we did create this checklist this year. I'm going to explain in just a minute that submittable. We are partnering with 2 other state coordinating programs. And this is where R&D comes up with coordinating programs and I'm forgetting if it was Alabama or Pennsylvania, because that's who we're sharing with. I think it was Pennsylvania. They had a checklist that they did for each category. And it really made sense to us, to make sure that you're including all the things you need for, as the screen shows, the Outstanding Community Empowerment Grant. Did we check all the boxes? Did we get everything in that nomination? So we utilized that, R&D'd it, and you'll get that checklist as part of the application. So moving to
Keith, you might explain what a coordinating program is, because
sure, yeah, coordinating
several
program.
new people. Yeah,
that's right. That's who we are. Missouri Main Street is called a coordinating program. And so there's not 50 coordinating programs. Most
Main
states
Street America. For Main Street America,
not,
that's what we call it.
Yeah, but not all states have a coordinating program. And then there are some city coordinating programs. And so that's who we are as Missouri Main Street. So finalists, judges will not add new categories, but may recategorize an entry or not award in a category. All applications, narratives, and photos have to be submitted through the Submittable app. It's very easy to use. By May 1st at midnight. We used to do a 5 p.m. Deadline just because you were emailing them to us. But now that we have Submittable, we can make it midnight. And so you get a little extra time if you need it. And then by July 8th, Missouri Main Street will notify you by email or phone if your entry is a finalist. But winners will not be announced publicly until the Evening of Excellence on August 1st. The Evening of Excellence is our big celebration at the end of the state conference. And this year, the state conference is in Kansas City. I have the dates on a slide at the end of the presentation, so we'll do that. But this is the big celebration where we recognize those finalists and winners. We do some other things, have fun that evening, do the accreditation certificates, lots of fun stuff that night. So I encourage you to participate in that also.
And then Keith, is submittable. We had one question from Donnie about how big our pictures can be. Probably within submittable, we may not have, I mean, I don't know what the cap will be.
Yeah, there is not, it's like 1 gigabyte, I think, or I mean, it's going to tackle all of the photos, that the high quality photos that we're looking for. You can even, we have it turned off, but Submittable does allow movies and videos to be submitted, but that's not part of our application, so we don't have it turned on. So that should not be a requirement. Thanks, Gayla. Other information you'll see in the submittable application as you go through, that you're going to denote your Main Street program's tier level. And so that allows us then to separate out nominations by accredited communities or by associate communities or by affiliate. But we may, depending upon the applications, we have the ability to combine those if we need to. So just noting that, you know, particularly for the affiliates that are newer programs, you're not going to be compared to accredited Main Street programs that have been doing this for decades. And so we have the ability to separate those out. So I wanted to note that that's been important. Projects do not have to be led by the Main Street program, particularly if it's a housing project or a rehabilitation project, but do have to be approved and submitted by the Main Street organization. Okay. So, you know, like the best economic impact project could be a big, you know, redevelopment in your downtown district or a big building renovation, realizing that the Main Street program didn't do that, but the application does have to come through the Main Street program with their knowledge and approval. We had that question asked a couple times in previous years. And again, we can't emphasize enough, provide good photos, particularly before and afters if it's a physical project. I mean, that's really the best way to demonstrate the impact or the projects visually. Before and afters are so important. I think Stephen may mention it. We talked about it earlier, or it's in another slide maybe. Google Street View is a good tool to use if you don't have a before photo from like years ago. And so that can be a good tool to grab a screenshot of what it looked like. If your community's been tracked multiple years, that can be a good thing. We're getting away with award category ties. We've done that in the past just because we've had great projects, but realizing that diminishes sometimes the impact of those winners. And so we are not going to do any ties in the future. So good applications. And only winners will have videos during the presentation. In the past, we've done videos for all the finalists, but we're just going to be, excuse me, featuring the winners at the Evening of Excellence. So I mentioned submittable. So this is the submittable form. Or what it's going to look like when you get the link and where you're going to go. So you're going to see, it's going to look a little different because we're sharing with Alabama, Pennsylvania, and Missouri, which this was a wonderful thing for us because this application is very expensive. And they really worked with us to make it something that Submittable really worked with us to make it something that we could do. And so we found 2 other coordinating programs that wanted to do it too. And we wanted to change our application process so that we can keep track of everything. We're getting bigger as an organization, over 50 Main Street programs now, and it's just harder to manage how we've done things in the past. So we needed a better system to do it. And so this will be a much better, you get confirmations when you send and submit your applications, you're going to get a confirmation right there on the screen that it has been sent to us.
And
so
unfortunately, I mean, let's talk about it. Unfortunately, we've had people send their applications before, and because of the big photos, it never came through. And
right.
So this hopefully will fix that. We knew we had to fix it after we had a couple of problems last year. And so we just want to make for sure that, you know, we're getting those applications and all of your attachments.
Yep. We wanted to do a better job with it. And also then on the backside, there's to review the applications and things is much easier. And so it's just going to streamline and hold us all a little more accountable. So this is what it's going to look like, but you're going to see anytime, and we're going to have other things coming up. RFPs for sessions at the state conference. The Paul Brune grant will be here. And so all of ours will be denoted by MO for Missouri and then the year. So this down here, the PDC, that's the Pennsylvania Downtown Center that we're sharing with. And then when Alabama gets in it, theirs will say AL. So you'll just, I mean, we're going to make it easy for you, but just note that that's how things are going to look. And we'll explain that in every webinar that we do. And then once you click on it, that's going to stay at the top. Actually, I'm going to, since we have the ability to share, I'm going to show you what it looks like in Submittable. So you can see that real quick.
One of the advantages too to Submittable is that you can go in and work on it and then come back in. You know, you don't have to finish. Yeah, you don't have to finish everything while you're in there. You can also go in and around and look around and get familiar with it before you even start and keep adding.
Yeah, you're going to create one login, and then you're always going to have that submittable login. But you can also, two people can create a login and work on an application together. And so just some great functionality to it. So this is what it looks like in a web browser. So some of the guidelines there that we just talked about. And then you get down to the application. So you can see it's branded. So, you can see it's Missouri. So you're in the right place. And then, we need some general information. This is where you would do your tier level. And then project name. This is what will be printed on the award and used in press releases. And then these are all the categories right here. So you'd pick that. So you would do this. You'd go through this. You can only submit one nomination at a time, but there's no limit other than the 6. So you'd go back in and do each nomination individually. And so this is the narrative piece, and you can see it won't exceed 1,000 words. So it's going to help you with that. And then this is the space to upload the files, the photos, up to 10. And all the types that it'll accept, GIF, JPEG, PNG, SATIF. So, all the things that are acceptable. And then some of the nominations have supporting materials. And so that's where this would go. So there may be the action plan that we asked for, or if there's marketing materials, if it's the promotion award or the best awareness campaign, those supporting materials would go in there. And then you have to click that you agree to the terms and conditions. If you click on terms of conditions, it gives you just some of the stuff that we went through to make sure that you've done. Okay. All right, so we'll go back to the presentation. It's really easy to use, and if you're having problems with it, please feel free to reach out to myself or Caitlin, and we'll put that in the instructions too of who that person is. And Ben manages the awards, but he hasn't been in the submittable piece like Caitlin and I have been. So back to the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Stephen to cover this next section from a judge's perspective. Why should an organization apply? How to write a good application. And so I think Stephen is up first. Is that right?
That is correct. Why should an organization apply? So really what we're hoping to do today is to encourage you and to challenge you to apply. We understand that that you have a lot on your plate. You're doing lots of things, and it can be difficult sometimes to think about, how important is it for me to do this work now for this thing that may or may not happen in August? And really what we're hoping to do today is have you leave and say, yes, it really is worth it. And I do have a really good shot at this. As you can see on the slide, the award is a recognition at the state level that you're doing good work, or your people are doing good work in your community. And, you know, it sounds a little bit cliche-ish, sounds like a cliche, but really it is true. Sort of being nominated is an honor, and that's something that you can use. And so, you know, a lot of the people that you work with, they don't really understand sort of the nuts and bolts of the organization and all the layers and whatnot. But I think when you tell somebody in your community that their project has been, you know, is up for this statewide award, it has value. It means something. So even if your people or projects don't win, the mere fact that you thought they were of that quality can go a long way in your community and with your stakeholders and supporters. So so we really want you to encourage. We want to encourage you to do that for that reason. I think if you've been to this award ceremony in the past, you know how exciting it is seeing what the projects are, and you know the sense of among your peers that your organization is really engaged and involved and in doing doing great things. And so when you apply, and I would encourage you, if you can apply up to 6 of these, you should do that because the more that you can apply for, the more likely you are that you're going to win something. And so bringing home this recognition for the projects in your community is important. Again, showcasing among your peers in Missouri Main Street, but also bringing those awards back to the community and letting folks know that the exciting work that you're doing is being recognized at the state level. And that really makes people feel like, oh yeah, you know, this is this outside validation that we really are performing at a high level, doing exciting things. It can be great promotion for the community, certainly leads to additional exposure in the press. Missouri Main Street puts out and prepares press releases for you. So, so really, it's a great opportunity to build goodwill with the people who are doing the work by honoring them by saying that you really think their work is high quality, and so you're putting it up for an award. And then, of course, the icing on the cake, if you win some of those awards, you bring it back. It can be a really meaningful experience for everyone involved. So we really want you to apply, and we're going to start talking about what makes a good nomination next. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
I would just add one thing here to Stephen's comments. It's a great opportunity to push your own social media when you have those applications in. Just even at that point, you know, here's the great projects we're doing. Push it out to everyone you can, just to keep showcasing your good work. All right, I'm ready. And Stephen, Keith's put some instructions in the chat for you guys now. So what does make for a good nomination? Well, obviously you've got to apply to get your nomination in. So again, I think getting involved with other folks in your community to help do that. You know, it's not just the executive director pulling this together and your staff, but involve your volunteers and other community members who can help write that good narrative for you. You know, we as judges, not necessarily familiar with your community when we read your application. So the more information you can share with the judges in your nomination, the better off you are. So I've learned so much about so many communities and reading those applications along the way. So focus on your language and the category. Make sure you're getting in the right category for your project. Look at your different projects or things you've done and get them in the best category for them. Again, make it a group effort and include your committees with these nominations. Someone may be a really good writer, editor in your group, and have them help you get a really polished application in. And then, of course, read the instructions and the descriptions, and be sure you address them, each one. And again, I think that those checklists will help you with that. Make sure you're getting each piece of information in and as the checklist will help. And then submit all that required documentation to support why the nomination is the winning material. And again, I would recommend having this be a team effort. Have multiple people read through the application, make sure it reads well, and others outside your community would understand what you're trying to say. Again, involve a lot of folks, and I think you'll do well. I really encourage you to get out there when Keith opens up the software for you, just to poke around a little bit, become familiar with it, and then you'll know how to use it when you're ready to submit. Stephen, do you have other comments?
Yeah, I think that really just to kind of reiterate some of the things that you mentioned in terms of again, we recognize that you all have a lot on your plate, and again, this seems kind of far off and far away, and so engaging other people in lightening the load. And really, don't overthink it. That, Chris said, like, maybe you've got a great writer and, and they can really help. Well, and then if you're there and you're like, oh, well, the person isn't really a great writer. Well, maybe they can write a crappy draft, right? That you can then, polish and make nice. It's always easier to rewrite something than it is to kind of write it the first time. And so, maybe you can get, kind of a clumsy draft from one of your volunteers, or really, not obsessing over like, who really has the talent, but like who has the insight, who has the passion, and can maybe get the ball rolling. And that's probably on the committee. These awards are structured so that they align with the 4 points. And so somebody who's operating on that point, who's not you or your staff, can probably make a stab excellently or just okay at getting the ball rolling on a nomination. So we really want to emphasize that. And then the other thing, if I had designed, this slide, I probably wouldn't have done it, but in my mind, I would have wanted to say, like, 1, read the instructions. 2, read the instructions. 3, read the instructions. And one of the things that I've seen, over the years is that the award category is really sort of looking for a particular kind of participation among other partners, and there's really no mention of that, right, in a nomination, or so really think about what the nomination is focusing on, and make sure that you are addressing that, and that everything in the description and the instructions that you really are attending to that. And again, we're hoping this year that the checklist will help with that process. But really, don't go to the effort and then not be awarded because you failed to include some kind of required documentation, or you really only addressed half of what the category was looking for. So
and I know
that would
you
be
all
my emphasis.
When we were planning this, we didn't want to call out any communities, but I mean, we have had best economic impact nominations not address the economic impact of the project. And so, read those instructions. I think the checklist is going to be very helpful in making sure you've addressed all the areas of the nomination. I mean, I understand you're getting into the trying to portray the story and maybe forgot something here or there. And so I think that checklist is going to be very helpful. And then to reiterate, but what both Chris and Stephen said again, is that in Main Street, we're always looking for ways to engage our community, our committees, and give them this application sheet, the nomination form, and have them brainstorm about what projects the design committee would like to nominate, and what projects The organization committee would like to nominate. Engage them, get them involved in this and make it a group effort.
Yeah.
We can see when it is a group effort.
Yes.
I would just maybe add to that. Maybe you guys are so used to doing projects and having your work plans and all that, but make this almost one of those too, with a timeline and a deadline and what you're going to accomplish each month as you move towards the deadline. So, all right,
Perfect.
Stephen, your turn, buddy.
Me again. Gosh, it felt like I was been talking on the last slide, so I'm going to give you time on this one too. Yeah, so Keith mentioned this before, how important photos are to the storytelling, and he also did mention, particularly for kind of building rehab or placemaking, things where you want to showcase the transformation in the physical space that's occurred. There's no evidence like photographic evidence, and if you happen to not have those before photos that you would like, Google Street View is a great way to do that, because some of you know, some of you may not know, but you can. There's a way to kind of go back in time on Google Street View, and so you can see what what that building or streetscape looked like in years past. And so definitely take advantage of that. Certainly, if you don't know how to do that, somebody in your community probably does it. If not, reach out to anyone with MMSC, and we'll help you do that. Having good photos is really important. It can help tell that story. They'll be used in the video when you win, right? So you want to make sure that you've got good photos for that. Think about, in terms of like this, the second paragraph there of, demonstrating the impact of the project, think about the way in which photos can do that, right? So if you are in a placemaking category, talking about like how activated this space is, and you have a photo of, the empty space, on a Tuesday morning, that's not as convincing as, the space full of people, right? So again, be judicious in how you make those selections and make choices that really don't just aren't just pictures of the project, but actually help tell the story, kind of demonstrate the point that you're trying to make. So you're making it visually. In terms of demonstrating the impact of the project, it really does depend on what the project is, and that gets back to the read the directions. Think about the emphasis that that award is trying to showcase, and be sure that you address that. As Keith mentioned, we've seen best economic impact projects that didn't provide any evidence on the economic impact, and you might be in a mindset where you think that the impact is obvious, but you need to know that nothing is self-evident, right? That you have to make an argument and provide evidence for the judges to reach the conclusion that you want them to reach, which is that your project has significant impact. As you're thinking about that, you should think about asking yourself, why does this nomination deserve to be recognized statewide? And I would say that, again, you only have 1,000 words, so you have to be, careful and choosy about the ones that you use. But try to frame why you think this is important for the judges. And it can be you know, you think it's like it looks like a small project, but we engaged lots of volunteers, or as a new organization, these were, you know, new partnerships and relationships that we had, or, you know, yes, it's only, you know, 3 housing units, but, you know, it's the first time people have lived downtown in our little tiny town. And, you know, and for like, it doesn't, the scale and scope don't necessarily correlate to it being worthy of statewide recognition. It really can be something more at the heart of what the project is. And so part of the reason we have these awards is to, on the one hand, as we've been saying, to recognize the work that people are doing. But the other reason we have it is to inspire other people across the state, so that people can look and say, oh, wow, such and such a community did this. Maybe we could do it as well. Or, you know, they did that on a big scale. Maybe we can do it on a small scale here. Or they did it on a small scale, so we can probably do it on a small scale too. Like those relationships, like don't worry about those. Just focus on why you think this is cool, worthy of statewide recognition, and provide the evidence and the argument that will allow the judges to see that as well. So Chris, why don't you help add to this?
I would just add that we are so excited to have you guys do this, and we can't wait to see all these nominations. We want you all to get an award if we possibly can give you one. And of course, Steve and I aren't doing the judging this year, but you know, really work at this if you can. I think it will bless you in many, many ways within your community, with recognition on the state level. And when you talk about the impact this project has, there's obviously a story to tell, but I think it also helps to add quantifying things, the number of volunteers, the number of new connections, really get that whole picture in there for the judges. And I think it'll really help you move your nomination up.
Okay. I was just going to say real quick, we're going to do a quick commercial on the conference. Gayla's going to do that. But if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat, or use an icon to raise your hand, and we can call for any questions that you have. And I'm going to share the submittable link in just a second, so you can go ahead and get your login done and registered, and start thinking about that as you go through.
So
All right,
I know
Gayla.
we talked, okay, before I talk about this, so I know we talked about it at the very beginning, but I just want to mention over again, we're actually going to be giving less awards because of not doing any ties. And so that's why this was so important for you all to hear, is how does my application rise to the top? And we hope how we have defined them on populations and large sizes, and you know where you guys are. Now we have on the application for our judges to see, you know, if you're accredited Main Street program, etc. So we also have thought about how our newer programs also can get awards. So we've tried to encompass all of that in the way that we have restructured this. So, you know, we're not competing against, you know, a large community that's been doing this for 35 years and making that distinction. And so that's why we're not going to be doing the ties. You know, before the judges and we felt like we had to do more of that because, hey, we've got a population that's doing great things, our community doing great things as a population of 3,000, and it's against a population of 100,000. And so we hope that, you know, again, when we talk about this next year, we'll sharpen our saw even more, and we'll figure out how to even do this better. But the main thing is that knowing how to get my application to the top, because we're just not going to be giving as many awards the way that we've structured it. So great applications are extremely important, and cannot emphasize enough, because we've been doing this for so many years, you guys, we can tell when committee and board members write these applications. And so it just makes a big, big difference. And not that as directors, we can't fine tune it and do what we need to make it to the next level, but you can really tell when people really own them, and write that $5 to $1,000 word summary. So we want to make for sure that you guys are there, of course, to win these awards. But the conference is coming up. Can't believe it. July 30th through August 1st. And also we were able to make it where, the finale is the evening of excellence. Not always can we make that happen. It's based upon the hotel and the availability and the rooms and da 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 da. But this is going to be a perfect year, that all of these things come together as a finale, for the conference at Evening of Excellence.
Yeah, and the Evenings of Excellence will be on Thursday evening. Last year it had to be on Friday evening, which I know is difficult for some of your folks traveling in just for the night. So it's on Thursday. It worked out with the hotel. That's always the determining factor for us. It is. Okay, Q&A. Who has questions? Which hotel, says Karen Marquardt? It is the Marriott Country Club Plaza in Kansas City. That's where we'll be. Here is the link to Submittable, so you can go ahead and have access to that. Again, we're going to send it all out on Monday, but since you guys were here today, you guys get it first, so you can create your login and go snoop around a little bit. Any other questions? You can either put it in the chat or unmute yourself and get on the video and ask a question if you have one.
Hey, Keith.
Yes, Donnie.
Is there any way to tighten up that notification schedule? Because for us, we don't want to invite someone unless we know they're a finalist to the Evening of Excellence. And that July 8th date really makes it tight with the August 1st conference. That's the problem we've faced, especially when the conference is on the other side of the state. Asking someone to give of their time to go to a awards presentation, there needs to be a lot more planning on that part than less than a month.
That's the latest, Donnie. Our hope is always to do it sometime in June. Sometimes things don't work out, but we'll keep that in mind with having, we've moved all of this up. We used to not let the award nomination applications be ready until March or so, or February. Well, I guess it is February, March or April. So we've tried to move it up quicker. The deadline is quicker. So I think, and hopefully Submittable will help us have a much quicker review process. We'll receive 60, 70 applications. And so it does take a little bit to go through those, but we certainly will keep that in mind, Donnie. We appreciate that and understand it.
We've moved everything up a quarter, actually.
Yeah. If you
we
have
used to
a
do it in
project,
April.
I'm sorry, yeah. Sharon asked, if you have a project that might take more than 1 year, should we use the completion year as the time to submit? Actually, Sharon, that is correct. The project has to be completed in the time frame that we listed on the grant. So January 2023 to December 2023, it had to be completed within that time frame. Yeah. Good question. Thank you.
And we get that question a lot.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like economic quarterly reports too.
Yeah.
You don't submit it to us until the project is complete. And so same thing for the awards nominations. Great question. Thanks. Anybody else? Either unmute yourself or type it into the chat. Everybody, a few more minutes.
Everybody's thinking about the projects that they can submit.
They're probably creating their login in Submittable. Any questions?
Well, Stephen,
I guess I'd also say, any words of wisdom from, those programs that have done nominations in the past that, it would be something we haven't said that you guys utilize or do as a Main Street program that you'd like to share?
it's too early.
Yeah. We'll give them a few more seconds. Stephen or Chris, anything you thought of while we were kind of wrapping up here that you'd like to add in?
No, just to reiterate, to encourage you, to do this. It's it's a lot of work at the front end, but it's a lot of fun, at the back end. And as Chris said, we're really looking forward to seeing all the great work that's happening across the state in each of your communities. So we're looking forward to it.
We would love to have at least one nomination from every community.
Yeah, that's a great goal.
Chris, anything
Challenge
to add?
your committees to come up with the nomination and
yeah, make it a group
well,
activity.
good luck. That's the other one. Good luck with this. Hope it goes really well for you.
Gayla, any final comments?
I just want to say thank you to Stephen and to Chris.
Sure.
Really for all their time. They have, Stephen especially has read hundreds of these applications. Nominations, I should say, nominations. So thank you to both of you all for doing this year after year, and then being part of this webinar today.
Welcome.
Lindsay did ask a question about, could we do some follow-up with those that didn't necessarily win, where the weak points were and things like that. I think that's something we could certainly consider. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. Have a good Friday. Everybody
Go
cheering on the
Chiefs.
Chiefs Sunday.
Go Chiefs. Got my red.
Hopefully we can bring home a win in that category. So thank you all and have a great weekend.